My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. This is the only channel dedicated to UFC fight picks and DraftKings lineups run by MMA insiders and professional fighters. Every week, I join Dan Kramer and Nick Newell, two longtime professional fighters that have fought at the highest levels on the planet, as well as Jacob Lyons, a skinny kid from Indiana. So join us every single week for our full fight card breakdowns, our individual fight card breakdowns, our betting guide, and our DraftKings lineups. We had a week off, but we are back at it with Monkey Knife Fights. And again, I have Chris Reilly here. Chris Reilly is the one who sets these actual lines. So if you watched our live breakdown and you love the lines, he's the reason you loved them. If you waited too long to play them and you came back today and they've moved, well, that's his fault too. So we're going to walk through a few of these fights. Chris is going to walk through his logic. I'll walk through what I think you should actually play. And we'll go from there. If you don't know what Monkey Knife Fight is, the easiest thing in the world. It is a ton of fun. And you make some decent money. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. Use promo code WWP, and they will instantly match your deposit. If you're worried, play with the free money. So, Chris, let's take a look at your main event line. If you want to walk us through how you got here, we have Jared Cannonier versus Kelvin Gastelum. You have Jared Cannonier set at 100.5 strikes and Kelvin Gastelum at only 69.5 in a 5-round fight. What do you got going on here?
Well, first of all, it's good to be back. How was your week off? I got to say, I love what you guys did at the channel and the interviews. If you guys haven't checked that out, I'll give you some promotion right here, Angelo. Check out those interviews. They're really good, especially the one with Porter, man. I'm excited to actually talk about him after this fight. We'll go to him because that was a killer interview. If you guys haven't checked it out, do so now. WeWantPicks.com. Right. And also, you got to tell people that you can get these videos on Spotify and stuff like that. And what was it? Apple as well. That was a game changer.
Yeah, our audio version of what we do is on literally everything. We push it to Spotify and then they push it to Apple, Google, everywhere.
No, that's a good deal, man. Because it's, for me, it works for me better to be able to do it on Spotify than YouTube.
To listen.
Anywho, let's get into this, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at these fights. And when we're looking at the 4.5 rounds, so that's kind of giving us an idea of how Vegas projects this fight to go, which is basically to a decision. And from what I understood from you guys yesterday in your podcast, that you guys think it's going to go probably 5 rounds, right? So that's what we're doing. We kind of spoke about this last week. We talked about how we try to break down the strikes per minute and then minutes per fight. And then also the other thing we try to do is kind of predict, which is impossible, try to predict if we think it's going to go to the ground or if it's going to be standing the whole time. And to be real with you, what's his name? Jared had a fight log that actually broke down really easily. And this is how he got, if you want to hear the beautiful mind way, how he came up with his line. He added up his 4 fights that went the decisions. We added up the strikes, divided them, by 4, and then divided those by 3 to get strikes per round, and then multiplied it by 4.5. It was 100.12. And I was like, hey, it works for me. And then we put out the line, and you guys kind of tell me if you think it's above or below, and that's the name of the game, right? So I felt like that was a good starting point for him. And then on the other side, and I'm sorry, I'm going to be real with you. I learned that I do better when I don't look at us directly in front of me. So I have my other screens up. So, okay, so we had Gastelum at 69. And Gastelum was kind of harder to do than him because we're not sure if he's going to shoot for takedowns the whole fight. And we kind of went with the numbers and broke him down. And you see his median in most of his fights is like when they go 5 rounds, it's 70, 90. So we just kind of put in that range, assuming that it goes 5 rounds. And we kind of like to separate a little bit in case the fight goes different ways. You have to be right on both guys. So I don't necessarily think he strikes at a lesser pace. I just feel like he's probably going to try to get it to the ground a little more. So it might slow him down. And if that scenario plays out, he needs to be a little less. And that's how we came up with that. And again, these are all just baselines for you. And honestly, it's been coming in all right. So I haven't had to do much to this one.
Yeah, I don't think you moved this one. And in the breakdown last night, I said, I don't like it, meaning it's a good line. It's a really good line. They, Dan and Jacob went with the more. So I followed along. They feel like it will be a 5-round fight. There should be some solid back and forth. And they should be able to get over these numbers. So they went with the more. I followed along. I already placed my my plays here. So I also hit the more. I do think Kelvin will probably wrestle, or at least try to, and he should have some success. which is interesting because he could blow past it with grappling if he's on top and just hammering away, or shooting for the takedowns could really slow down that strike total. But it's 5 rounds, 69.5. That's a little more than, and I know you did the math equation, so, but it's a little more than 12 a round or something like that. So I think he will get it done. I think it's an active fight for both of them. So I'm hoping for the more here.
I hear you. Another thing we have to watch out for, these I probably will be raising. I feel like a lot of people are also going to just be coming in on the over. So I should have probably been a little higher because of recency bias, right? I mean, everyone just got done watching Strickland go 5 rounds and put up 2. No one saw that coming. We did
that
really
was
well last time.
Break.
Yeah, we did really well with that fight. Let's just say that. We got you guys on that one. So that was good. But then people come back and they're like, oh, it's just one of those random fight nights. Let's just take it 5 rounds over 200 strikes. So, I don't see this being one of those fights where I genuinely felt like Strickland could possibly get to his ceiling, but I didn't think it'd be that high, So we'll see what happens this week, right?
Yeah, it'll be, there's a couple of interesting lines. So let's move to the Parker Porter line. So Parker Porter, my personal friend, I managed him in his career for a very long time. And we did that interview that you plugged. Thank you. We did an interview with Parker. I couldn't air the whole interview because some of it was him talking about what he's going to do in the fight. And he said it was fine, but that's not up to me to put that out there. So we'll keep that a secret. But you have 72.5 strikes for Parker, 64.5 for Chase Sherman. They are 2 strikers. Especially Chase is a straight up boxer. I don't think he's ever shot a takedown before. Parker will mix in takedowns, will hold against the cage. So you have 72.5 and 64. So how did you get here? And is it a little trickier for somebody like Parker who only has 2 fights in the UFC?
I told you this in a text and you probably thought I was joking, but I'm not joking. When you have a guy that's going to be fighting the week of as an interview, question 1 needs to be, how many strikes are you going to throw, bro? We need to figure this out because he is tricky. And honest, I listened to that before I even looked at any of the data or projections. And when he talked about his fight to watch, if you want a highlight reel, it was that one he had against, who was it, Parison? And the dude
his last fight, yeah.
Yeah, his last fight. And he set like a record for strikes, or 6 strikes for the division at 126. And we have to kind of account for some kind of a ceiling. And when I saw this fight, the way that Sherman kind of goes at it, I felt like it's going to kind of play out similar to the Andre Arlovsky fight, right? It's like bigger dude. And they're going to stand. And so we had to try to account for the ceiling. I genuinely feel like this is a trap. I think this goes the distance. People right now are not agreeing with me and hitting the unders on this one. But like I said, these guys can go. So I'm just hoping it stands up the whole time and go at it. I just think it's very likely that it will. Oh my God, I forgot to unplug my phone.
You're like, Dan last night here. Getting IMs and all sorts of stuff. So I do think I agree with you. I think this fight.
I'm gonna go plug this thing off.
All right, I'll do my thing. I think this fight will go the distance. You guys didn't see our full breakdown last night, or I don't know when you're watching this, so it wasn't last night anymore, but our full breakdown, check that out, Parker versus Chase. We get into details, and the round line is set at 1.5 for this fight. I don't agree with that round line. I placed a bet at weonpicks.com/bets to go over 1.5 rounds, but I do think, I don't know if this goes the distance, but I do think it goes way past 1.5 rounds. So this is a really hard line. I'll be honest, I played the less, but that's like wishful thinking. I'm hoping Parker puts him away. Realistically, this will probably go the distance, and they're both strikers, and they will get past these lines. So more is probably the play. I did less because, Parker's my buddy.
And you're counting on the finish for that, for sure. Because when you take a look at, I mean, that's kind of a relatively low line for Sherman. If you look at his fight logs, I thought anyways, he's 99, 84, 112. It's like he can get up there. So yeah, I guess it depends but at the same time, they're heavyweights, right? So are we ever surprised?
Well, that's the thing. They're heavyweights, and they will strike, and both of them have been stopped. And I don't know if Parker's going to try to mix in some wrestling or not. And I'm being genuine. I'm not trying to be weird. So I found this to be a hard line. I could totally see, I did the less. I do think it goes more than 1.5 rounds, and 72 strikes in 1.5 rounds is a ton. So I think it's a second round stoppage, and I think they'll stay under it.
No, that very well could happen. I just don't think these two are going to kind of clash and go to war, and we're looking at a quick knockout here. You know, this isn't like a Mendenfield Knight kind of situation, and I just think they can last it out. So, you know, good luck.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So like I said, I did the lesson there. And the next one we'll look at is Brandon Royval versus Alexandre Pantoja. Pantoja, 73.5 strikes. Royval, 45.5 strikes. Did you move this line already?
Yeah, I had to move this line already, you guys. Like, again, why don't you go ahead and, dude, your following is just kind of grown by the numbers as I'm looking at it now. I was just like, oh, man, you guys are kind of hitting this harder and harder and harder. But no, I gave you guys the lines. I put out my first one, got to stick with it. And I said I'd give it out during your Tuesday live pods. But then this morning, no. And someone was asking me that in the live chat. He's like, what time are you going to do it? It's like, come on, dude. It's like, I'll do it when I do it. I'm not like 8 o'clock.
You give them an inch, they want a mile. We deal with that all the time. So, anybody new to this and you're watching this video for the first time, Chris set the lines for Monkey Knife Fight. It's just straight up strikes. You play the line and you 2.5 times your money if you're. He gives us the lines when they go live, which is when you can play them. And we do our full card breakdown live on Tuesday nights. As we do the breakdown, we're giving our advice on these lines. This was low. You had this a little low last night. At least in our opinion, we think it's a war and it goes multiple rounds. So Chris has been kind enough to say, I'll leave the lines up while you film your video. After that, I'm moving them. So sounds like some action came in. You ended up moving it up.
Yeah, it definitely came in. But, you know, this one, I will say this. When I first started doing this with Monkey Knife Fight, Brandon Royval was one of my favorite guys because he had that fight of the night. That was one of the first times I was put on UFC, right? And like it started in Jacksonville. I don't know if it was a Jacksonville fight, but it was one of the first couple cards. Do you remember that fight when he got fight of the night with Cara France or what? Cara France?
Cara France, yeah.
And I was like, dude, this guy is a bomb. That fight was awesome. And then I look up and he's from Littleton, Colorado, which is where I am right now. And I find out he's just from this area, trains at Factory X. And so he's kind of you just get the recent or hometown biasy, I guess you could say. So no, I really like Brandon Royval. And the thing about his fights, they're so fun to watch. And if you look at his fight log, I mean, so far Brandon Royval fights don't finish. I know the round total is super high, and I kind of am with you. I thought I heard you say you're looking for what was it, inside the distance on this fight, maybe? And if so, I think
I think they go at it, and I think Pantoja can win inside the distance. But Royval's super tough. I think if there's a stoppage, it will be later. So I expect multiple rounds of action, but I think Pantoja can get it done. Yeah,
because in my notes, I just have both of these guys go forward, right? So it's going to be fireworks. And then let's not forget, these guys are tiny, man. I saw Brandon Royval, and he's not a very big guy. They're 125. So it's obviously, but the thing about him is he's one of those wild grapplers. And I feel like he's one of those guys that will be willing to, jump on someone's, go for the backpack and do something crazy. And if it doesn't work, he's in a lot of trouble. And I think you guys alluded to that yesterday. And I'm trying to account for that. And when you look at his fight log, that seems to be the case. While he is explosive, it kind of seems to come in spurts. I was blown away when I saw that he only had, in that fight of the night, he had 51 strikes against Cara France. And if you asked me what I thought it was, I probably would have said like 90 because that fight was just explosive. But
I'll have to rewatch that because that is an interesting stat that it was that few, because there was just so many grappling exchanges.
Exactly, because they throw punches, then they like do cartwheel takedowns on each other, and then you know what I mean. And then they're rolling around. It was definitely watch that one. That was the one that got me pumped about UFC. So I definitely recommend that to any newcomers. But anyhow, so I'm trying to account for him. 2.5 rounds. So that's the situation I'm playing. And then I should have been higher on Pantoja because when you look at his fight log, his numbers actually break down pretty evenly. And he has 2 outliers, like where he went the distance. And when you break it down, his median of all his fights that went the distance, it's around 70. So that's where we put it at. And that's actually where our projections were. But for some reason, I'm such a Royval truther. To be honest with you, I'm like, Royval's just going to choke him out. I want to see him choke him out. But yeah, that probably wasn't a very good line. I think I had him like 13 lower, and it still may go higher. So it's going to depend. I'm excited for this one. It could be fight of the night, but I'm, again, being biased, and I'm just going for a Royval armbar, something cool, something fun, and an early finish. because I think it's possible, and I just don't think anyone else does, and I don't understand it.
Well, this definitely will be fight of the night. I have almost no doubts about that. And there's a bunch of good fights on this card. This is absolutely one of them. These guys will go at it. I still like the more. I don't love it like I did yesterday, but I do still like the more here because I think if it doesn't go the distance, it will go a distance, right? I think it'll be a meaningful amount of time. There'll be some back and forths, and I just envision a firefight. You're right that if Brandon Royval's numbers are pretty low, even in those firefights because of the grappling exchanges, that could happen here because Pantoja can grapple as well. So they could end up on the ground, tangled up, working through sweeps and submissions and working on their hips and not their strikes. But I still think more is probably the play. But if anything, I would use one of them in a rapid fire or something like that.
Get some exposure, right? You gotta have, when there's a fight like that, you have to be on some side, right? Otherwise, it just makes it that much more fun to watch. I can't watch a fight without any action like that, especially those firework ones.
So I just want to do one last quick thing and look at Knockout Kings. This is a harder one to pick. So anybody that doesn't know Knockout Kings, you pick 3 fighters, any 3 fighters. They could even be fighting each other. 1 of them gets a knockout and you get paid out. 2, you get paid out even more. 3, you get paid out even more. I don't know who my 3 would be, honestly. This is a hard card. I mean, you have to go William Knight, right? He's a giant favorite, hits like a truck. This fight's a lot harder than the odds have it, but you have to go William Knight. Outside of that, I mean, a lot of these fights could go either way. I think you pick 2 people in one fight. I think you just go heavyweight.
Fabio?
What was that?
I said William Knight and Fabio, maybe?
I don't know if Fabio will knock out William Knight, but maybe Sherman and Parker. One of them might get a stoppage.
That's this a bad one.
Yeah, just go 3 out of the 4 heavyweights on the card and hope one of those fights ends in your direction. So Knockout Kings for me has been I haven't missed yet, thank God, but I have gotten by the skin of my teeth a few times. So this one
last week was a good one for us, for sure. Alonzo did not come through for you guys. So
Alonzo Menafield, I think everybody had.
Oh yes, they did. So we did all right. So if you came around, if you came out of that week unscorched, you did really well because we did pretty good last week. So you guys owe us because you guys have been smashing us.
Well, because you only have to get 1 out of 3. Now, when you get greedy and you do 2 or 3 out of 3, that's when you can have problems. So I did 1 out of 3. I hit it last time, but I had Menafield in there, but I knew how tough Ed Herman was, which is why I was like, okay, I'm just going to do 1 out of 3 because Menafield is not a game here. I would do something like this. Let me know in the comments what you would do. I always love Knockout Kings. And the other slates are always a ton of fun, but I hit those up later in the week. So anything else you want to add, Chris, before we go here?
Is William Knight live for a submission? I thought he was a good wrestler. Is that out of the cut?
For sure.
Is you guys just thinking like a ground and pound or just a straight up knockout? Because I'm trying to think of inside the odd distance. I haven't seen him yet.
I would assume a ground and pound, or it could be a knockout on his feet. But Fabio's competent on his feet, so I think William Knight will shoot a takedown, and there's probably a ground and pound there. I don't see him getting a submission. He certainly can. He's capable. And his wrestling, we broke it down, right? It's effective. It's not phenomenal, but he is strong. He does get nice body locks and he works it down. And when he's on top, he's on top. Like he's throwing heavy and really putting in some work. So if William Knight gets it, I actually think, to your point, it would be more ground and pound than it would be just standing knockout.
I understand. Yeah, and it was unfortunately we had the 2 fights. Like I said, we debate the payouts and change them, and we have to keep them where they are. But if we get a card where we don't have these 1.5, and it seems like everyone's 2.5, stay tuned because we'll have some awesome payouts for that one.
Yeah, that'd be interesting because right now it is all cards are equal, and like 2 cards ago, you couldn't lose, right? There was going to be knockouts all over the place.
Yeah.
Last card was a lot trickier. This card's a hard one. So let me know in the comments. I'm really curious who your 3 picks would be for Knockout King. So thank you again, Chris. The people seem to love it. I got a ton of positive feedback having you on here, and I think everybody likes to get into the mind of the person they're competing. It's you versus them. It's you versus our fan base, basically. So
yeah, it's a fun job, right? Fun job. And I'm just not used to this internet fame. I jumped in the chat last night, got bombarded by like 2 people. It's like, back up, Jesus. No, one by one, you guys. No, it's been great. Like I said, I love the community. I love the channel, and it's a lot of fun going through this. And it's like, I'm doing this anyways, have no issue talking it out. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but in your video following the Monkey Knife Fight one, I'm pretty sure Jacob was like talking some trash here. What's up, Jacob? What are you doing, bro? I'm just gonna go.
Really? I don't remember.
He made some mention of he made some mention of, oh, Chris isn't here, fisticuffs, and I'm like, whoa, bro, what's up with that? I'm gonna go Stephen Thompson and go the high route, bud. We don't need that, Jacob. Yeah, we're all on the same team at the end of the day. Maybe I should look up his account. That might make more sense if I look up.
Yeah, send him. That'll teach him a lesson. All bark, no bite. That Jacob.
No, yeah, I'll just look at his account. If it's down a lot, then it makes sense why he has to. Then I guess he can talk a little more shit. That's fine.
Cool. All right, well, thank you very much.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Yep.